Oh, cool. What's the shirt? It's a Bitcoin shirt. Oh man, that's nice. Oh wow. I'm so sad that the shirt didn't come in the mail. Oh wow.
Hey folks, welcome to the Bitcoin Halving live stream. Hey, hope you bought popcorn because I bought some, and my kid's favorite, Pirate Booty. And then, hey, come on, got to drink the good stuff for the Bitcoin halving. So I don't know. Does YouTube allow us to drink on live stream? Maybe not, but okay. It's a thought that counts. But welcome everyone to the Bitcoin halving live stream from ATG Digital Media. Thanks so much. This will be actually our second halving. The first halving, truthfully, I don't think I knew that much about it. I think I was like still understanding what it meant, what it was, what is this halving thing? I used to actually call it the halvening, and all of this, but yeah, we can see the live countdown is going on, so you can see we only have 10 blocks to go, and you might think, well, Paul, what are these blocks? What? So we'll just try and make this a little bit educational. I promise, no boring monologue. But what is this halving thing? What are these blocks? What are these things that we are seeing? And of course, most importantly, we see the price, right? Which is why I love this page. It's constantly updating in real time. But Bitcoin is like this piece of genius, really. All right. So there's 21 million coins, right? And yeah, over every 4 years, right? Approximately, that's what it works out. 210,000 blocks are mined. And every time 210,000 blocks are mined, the reward for mining a block of Bitcoin gets halved. And it's a way of controlling the supply. And why 210,000? If anybody can figure it out, I've got some like Bitcoin memorabilia. We'll have like Dean send to you, but can anybody figure out like why it's 210,000? Think about it. 21 million coins, 210,000. See the connection? Anyone? Going once, going twice, going thrice. Yeah, it's 210,000 because it's essentially split up into 100 halvings. No, 100, because 21 million divided by 100 would get you to 210,000. So yeah, so there's going to be 100 halvings, and we are in halving number, who knows? Halving number 1 was in 2012. Halving number 2 was in 2016. Halving number 3 was in 2020. And halving number 4, we are sharing it with all of you. And through each of those halvings, the minor reward or the minor subsidy, as it's referred to in the white paper for Bitcoin, gets halved. So the original reward was, can anybody guess if we are going to go from 6.25 to 3.125? Any mathematicians there? So can you work out what was the original one? Okay. David Matthias says we lost you. Well, okay, I won't make all of this such a quiz. So it started out at 50, and then we have to 25, and then we have to 12 and a half, and then we have to 6 1/4, and now we're 3 1/8. And so we're halving and halving. And with that, the new supply of Bitcoin gets shrunken down. And we're just at the 4th halving, and we're already down to this tiny amount, which is 3 1/8 being the block reward, the minor subsidy, whatever you call it, which essentially works out to 450 Bitcoin per day. 450 Bitcoin per day. All right. So we're in the last minutes, last seconds, last hour. Oh, 1 block just got mined. Did you see? We went from 10 to 9 blocks remaining. So we got 9 blocks left. 9 blocks left. So yeah, I mean, we're going to go from 900 being mined every day. When you see that blocks remaining go from 9, and when it says 0 over there, suddenly, from an instant, from that moment on, yeah, it's goes from 900 to 450. So what does that mean? Well, instantly, the new supply of Bitcoin, yeah, it's suddenly more scarce. It's just like it, it's like prior to that, there's 9 more blocks, right, where the minor reward is 6.25 Bitcoin. 6.25 Bitcoin multiplied by, let's average it, just assume, just for simplicity, 60,000. So $360,000, $400,000 is what you can earn if you are fighting to earn Bitcoin right now. But the moment that the halving hits, when that hits 0, when the blocks remaining hits 0, yeah, now you're only going to have 3 1/8. So at 60,000 is going to be, it's essentially the minor reward, the minor subsidy goes from about 400,000 to half to about 200,000. So the nature of human markets is as follows. So yeah, we're suddenly going to have a lot less Bitcoin being produced on a new basis. Of course, we could all be super generous to BlackRock and to all the ETF providers and just hand our Bitcoin in. Please don't do that. Or else we can do what? Have them bid it up. Because yeah, if you want Bitcoin starting in about 56 minutes and 40 seconds or so, you're going to have to get it from, you can get some from the miners, but they only have half as much as they used to have literally an hour ago. And now that's going to have to be made up by somebody that currently owns it and says, yeah, okay, show Paul. Yeah. So the supply is halving. The supply, infinite basis is fixed. It's 21 million. 19.6 already mined. There's only 1.4 million that are going to be mined over the next, it started in 2009. We're in 2024. Over the next 85 years, which means it's going to be shrunken down with each halving. Why am I going to give mine up? Why am I going to give mine up? So that's what this halving is. In other words, it controls the new supply, not the total supply. The total supply is going to be 21 million, and that cannot be changed. That's hard coded into Bitcoin's code. But the new supply, every 210,000 blocks, gets halved. And what is the benefit of like this mathematical, algorithmic kind of control on supply? Well, hey, folks. Maybe I'll put up. No, I don't want to put this up. But you can go to this website, usdebtclock.org, and go and look at our debt. R meaning the United States of America. Our debt. It is at what? 36 here. Maybe I can put up two here. One moment here. usdebtclock.org. I'm going to change this just for a moment. Sure. We'll go back to the halving in a second. But look at that, folks. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, that's moving in real time, and that is real. That's our actual debt. $34.6 trillion of national debt. 34.6 trillion. Where are we coming up with this money? You can see this is one of the most informative websites you can ever look at. Yeah. Our total tax revenue per year, 4.78 trillion. But we have debt of 34 trillion, right? And then the thing that like many people will focus on, let me see if I can find it. Where's that interest? Interest on debt, which is like right here in this corner. $809 billion. $809 billion per year. $809 billion. So, so the supply of US dollars, it could be controlled, but it is not being controlled. Let me go back to sharing the halving clock, because we don't want to miss the halving. I mean, that's the whole thing. So so one is finite, 21 million Bitcoin that can ever be issued. And we're already like what? Dean, are you good at math? What's 19.6 of 21 million?
19.6 of it?
Yeah. What's the percentage? Let's see, who's faster, me or you on this?
4 million?
It's 93%. 93% of all the Bitcoin that's ever going to be mined is already mined.
Right.
So this is what I call accelerating scarcity. In other words, as we go through time, the amount of Bitcoin that's mined it's like being in like the tiniest like little crevice, like that's just like gets thinner and thinner. I go rock climbing and I've been through some thin crevices. And like sometimes like you have to shrink, and sometimes you have to go like sideways to get in. And like, in other words, just so little Bitcoin left to begin with. And with each halving, there's less and there's less and there's less and there's less. And so, you got supply that is shrinking, and we got demand, which in theory is unlimited. Why is it unlimited? Well, I came to this country in 1986, probably before Dean was born. Probably around time. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. I was born in 94.
Yeah. I don't know. Does anybody know what the U.S. debt was in 1986? I cannot even imagine that it was $1 trillion. Dean, look it up. Google this. What was our debt? What was U.S. the federal government's debt in 1986?
Let's see. It was 2 billion.
No, that can't be right.
That's what it says.
Hey,
In
chat.
billion?
Someone double check because
No. 2 trillion, I believe it
2
is.
trillion.
Yeah.
2 trillion. Really? Okay.
Yeah,
That's the U.S. government's debt, really, or was it like the debt of everybody, the whole country?
It says national debt in 1986, debt in billions. I mean, you can see what debt in billions rounded, and it's 2,125, so that's 2.1 trillion. But it grows exponentially every year after.
So I mean, our debt is like nearly 20 times what it was in 1986. I mean, we can take a little poll. Who thinks our debt in let's pick a round number in 2030 is going to be less than what it is today? Anyone?
Let us know in the chat.
Anyone in the chat? Anyone think that our debt, and remember, the interest on the debt by itself is $800 billion. $800 billion. Yeah, you give me even the best odds in the world. I am not taking that bet. Is going to be higher. And it is potentially much, much higher. So the potential supply, I mean, is very limited. The potential demand is unlimited. Yeah, so like, okay, limited supply in accelerating fashion, demand accelerating higher as like, okay, everyone around the world eventually is going to come around to the same thing, which is like, damn, yeah, this coin is like the best store of wealth that exists in the world. It is scarcer than gold. I know there are some gold bugs in here, so like we don't need to get into like a firefight about gold. Gold's going up as well, and I'm happy for those of you that own gold. But in terms of portability, finiteness, transparency, yeah, this is about as good as it's ever going to get. I just got a warning saying that my keyboard is going to die, so I just need to get this plugged in. So I'll suddenly have a problem. But yeah, so I mean, we've got unlimited amount of fiat that can be issued, and I mean, and that's just US dollars, right? I mean, what about the world's currencies? I mean, Bitcoin in Turkish lira, when you compare Turkish lira to Bitcoin, Turkish lira has essentially gone worthless. I saw this on X. Bitcoin compared to where I came from, India, has gone worthless. So in between January 2009 and today, which is like what? I mean, a little over 15 years, two currencies of not small countries, not tiny little like, dots like islands. Yeah, they have essentially zeroed out against Bitcoin. Turkey and India, and that's just two examples. I imagine, well, I mean, Argentina has probably gone through like 5 currencies in that time frame. And there are any number of other world currencies that have just zeroed out against something that is actually finite, that actually stays finite in a finite way. So yeah, I mean, when people ask me like, Paul, what's going to happen today? What's going to happen tomorrow? Look, folks, this is an investment where you want to look forward, a minimum of like, 3 years, 5 years, and think like, well, how much more fiat will be issued by the United States, by the European Union, by Japan, by China, by Argentina, by Brazil, by India, and every single country. And there is only 21 million coins. Now, people say, well, Paul, you can buy Litecoin. They have a limited number, Bitcoin Cash. Yeah. But do you see anybody like starting an ETF for Litecoin or for Bitcoin Cash. I mean, one might come, but no, I mean, people want Bitcoin. Why? This is the original crypto coin. And it was devised for a particular purpose because in 2009, this was when we don't know who this person is. His name is Nakamoto Satoshi, right, Dean?
Satoshi Nakamoto.
Satoshi Nakamoto. That's the moniker he went under. Put out this white paper. It was circulated among people. I personally found out about Bitcoin in 2011. I read about it in a New Yorker article, so a magazine, and it talked about this cryptocurrency. And I am always interested in anything that is new, anything that is unique, anything that is different, that is unusual. So I read it, and of course, I went to Google and typed in Bitcoin. And at the time, at least on the internet, there was only seemingly one place where you could buy it. It was this super shady-looking website that was an exchange that sold Bitcoin to you. It was called Mt. Gox. And Mt. Gox was located in Japan. And I remember I was like, okay, well, I'll just take $1,000 and I'll put it in. And if my recollection is right, Bitcoin was something like $7 or $8, something like that. $7, maybe $11. But for whatever reason, my credit card wouldn't go through. And they were like, use your debit card. And I was like, no way. I mean, this is such a shady looking website. Nothing about it made you feel comfortable. Nothing about it made you feel secure. And just, I was like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. And later on, Mt. Gox got hacked. And actually, I think it got hacked right before the 2012 halving, if I remember correctly. And but during that hack, Bitcoin went from, I think it was like $7 all the way down to 1 cent or 10 cents. It's a crazy, but these were very early days of Bitcoin, very, very early days. There was no real formal market for it. I have a friend who told me that he bought Bitcoin in a street deal. He said, I went to Craigslist. There was a dude that was advertising that he would sell you Bitcoin. He met him on the street and he handed him a zip drive, and said, yeah, here's your Bitcoin. And I mean, you'd have to take their word for it that the Bitcoin was on there. He said it was on there, it was fine. But I've also read stories about another dude that was selling Bitcoin out of a Taco Bell. He was known and people knew, if you wanted to buy and sell Bitcoin, because people also wanted to sell Bitcoin. They were mining at that time was a very informal activity. It didn't require a lot of computing power. You could do it on your PC, no big deal. And a lot of the early Bitcoin was mined in that way. Was done through a PC. Was done through, a spare computer sitting in people's bedrooms. Which is why some of the Bitcoin, some of the 19.6 Bitcoin is lost. Why? Because many people never imagined. They never imagined that Bitcoin would be worth $1, let alone 100 or 1,000 or $64,200. Yeah, that was not in anybody's conception. They're like, it's this nice little toy, And so as a result, it's estimated that something like 1 million, maybe 2 million coins are just, I mean, they're, in theory they exist, but there's no way to get them because people have lost the keys to them. And the most famous story of this is a guy in England that mined his Bitcoin on a computer, and he was moving, and he left special instructions to make sure that the computer where he had the Bitcoin mined was moved. Yet somehow whoever was moving, maybe somebody in his family, took that computer and put it into the trash. And it ended up in some landfill in England. And you can Google this. Just Google Bitcoin landfill story. And you will find, and I think at 64,000, this Bitcoin is probably worth $700 or $800 million, if I remember correctly. Maybe I'm going a little high, but it's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And there were multiple stories done the last time Bitcoin hit a high of how he was trying to persuade the municipality where this happened to dig up a landfill to try and get this computer back. And then computer experts were like, well, we think that, we can salvage the hard drive and extract the keys, hundreds of millions of dollars. So Bitcoin has gone through a long and very varied kind of like existence, where it started as a joke in among many people, but the people who understood how beautifully this was constructed, how almost every detail was taken care of, everything from the finiteness of the supply to the thought put into how it can be halved and the supply of it. Many people also have written me and said, Paul, I hear that quantum computers can decode Bitcoin. It turns out that the difficulty level of mining Bitcoin moves with how fast and powerful a computer is. So the faster the computer is at being able to go and mine and solve the algorithm, the difficulty level jumps, which means you have to bring more computing power to be able to mine a block. So, I mean, this dude, Satoshi, is like, we always admire geniuses like, Elon Musk or Steve Jobs or others. But I mean, this is a piece of monetary genius, folks. Monetary genius. And please, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. We still have 9 blocks to go. On average, if you take the very long-term average, it's somewhere between 6 and 10 minutes per block. So it's not like a set amount of time per block. It can go, as you can see, we've gone through a block where one was 4 minutes, and then we had one with 8 minutes. So it varies. So we can have some of these blocks go boom, 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 and then we can sit for 15 minutes. So we'll stay with, we've got 9 blocks to go. I think the longest this will in all likelihood go is probably 40 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. We'll sit with it and, make sure we pretend uncork the champagne. We don't want YouTube to kick us off for drinking on screen. But if you have any questions, whether it be at the halving, it can be about Bitcoin itself. I know we had a few I know we had a few questions early on. I'm laughing because in the chat, Peter Foll says, great commentary. I really question how much you could talk. Hey, I have studied Bitcoin from beginning to end. Dean and Dan, who unfortunately cannot be here because, hey, Dan, we're thinking of you. Dan is getting married and he's at his bachelor party. Otherwise, he would be on here. They know, Dean, you get endless amounts of stuff from me, right?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah.
I am never at a loss for some amount of research, analysis, or information.
We did have one question, though, from David. David says Satoshi could be a woman or a group of individuals. Yes?
It's possible. It's possible. Given the state of cryptography at the period that's being talked about, the New Yorker article, which you can Google, I cannot remember what it's called, but the article was actually a search for Satoshi. And the writer went about trying to decode who this person could be. He talked to some guy in England, I think at Oxford, who seemed to fit the profile. There was another person in the United States. And at the time, cryptography was mostly dominated by women. So to the extent it was an individual, the highest likelihood is that it was a man. there's also been theorized that the code is so complex, or at least the thinking behind the code is so complex, that there's no way that one single individual could have come up with it. Yeah, I mean, my vote would be, I think it's a person that came up with it. I mean, and some people say that it's Steve Jobs. Some people say it's Elon Musk. I doubt that it's either one of them, because yeah, I mean, neither one of them have shown necessarily coding chops and cryptography. In other words, it's not just computer code, but you also have to understand the history of money. You have to understand finance. You had to create a mining mechanism. You have to understand computing. There were so many elements of this that were involved, that it's unlikely it's any person that is currently known. But I mean, it's possible that it could be anybody. But I think Satoshi still has how many a million coins? Is that right, Dean? Is that
Yeah,
what?
it's a very significant amount in
Yeah,
a whole wallet. Yeah.
right. Yeah, in a wallet. So in theory, if Satoshi were to ever attempt to cash out, people are watching that wallet all the time. So if Satoshi came and looked to cash out, we would know.
We have another question, but before we get to that question, I really want to say quickly, thank you all for coming. We have a special giveaway that I do want to share, and all you have to do to enter this giveaway is just comment something in the chat. I'm going to choose 2 individuals randomly. You don't have to comment anything in particular, but I'm going to go ahead and drop the link to this Bitcoin special shirt that we were hoping to have to wear today, but we had some shipping delays. I'm going to place that in the chat so you all can check it out. It's a really cool shirt that we made special for the Bitcoin halving, and 2 people will get that shirt for free. All you have to do is just comment below, and 2 people will be chosen. We did have a question from Raw. Sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly. It says, which country has the most Bitcoin holders? And I took a second to Google that, and it says that India has, in terms of Bitcoin holdings, 85.5 million wallets is what they're saying, which is a lot. And China lags by about 50 million or so wallets at 27.8 million wallets. Doesn't necessarily show the amount because I think that would be harder to track.
I'm just gonna go grab this bag. So I have all this Bitcoin memorabilia, and since we got still 8 blocks to go, Dean, keep everyone entertained.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. So I'm going to drop this in the chat really quickly. We love to celebrate our community. You all are awesome. And so let me just go to the site really quickly and drop
So
this.
actually, the world's largest holder of Bitcoin after the various ETFs, Dean, is who?
After the ETFs, Michael Saylor.
No, it's the U.S. government.
Really?
They have confiscated like $3 or $4 billion worth of Bitcoin. All right, we're going to give folks a quick tour of various Bitcoin memorabilia. A Bitcoin coaster. Who knew that existed? Huh? How about that? Let's take a vote for which is the coolest Bitcoin memorabilia that I own. And Dean, I'm going to ship this to you. When we go through to, like, I don't know, when Bitcoin hits what, 100, then 110, we'll do some giveaways. Yeah. Bitcoin, Bitcoin coasters. This, folks, is the original Genesis code for Bitcoin. This is a magnet. This is the original Genesis code. Yeah, I've got a few of these. Let's see. What else we got? Okay. This is just another cool Bitcoin magnet. Yeah, there I got. Yeah. I've used these in some of the YouTube videos. You're wondering, like, where does Paul come up with all this stuff? Well, I've got a collection of this stuff. We're going to give all this away. I'm going to ship this to Dean and to B. I'm going to give all this away. Here's another, hey, I think this is supposed to go the other way, up and to the right. So they got the direction wrong. Maybe this is the supply.
Right.
This is on the
Yeah.
supply, right? Yeah. This is a Bitcoin pumpkin. What do you think?
I like it.
Chat, what do you think? Is that a Bitcoin? I think it's like a loot bag.
Yeah.
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 This is maybe somebody's attempt to depict Satoshi.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cold. I like that.
What else we got? Let's see. What else we got? Let's see. Yeah. Hey, I got a whole. Oh, let's see. See. All right. What's this supposed to depict, everyone?
Definitely mining. Yeah.
There you go. Mining. Bitcoin miners. All right. I got more. I mean, you think, hey, you're talking with somebody that spent a lot of time studying Bitcoin. Yeah. And a lot of time thinking about this and thinking, like, who knows what this is? Anybody that is like more OG to Bitcoin than me? Is anybody more OG to Bitcoin than me?
I have no clue what that is.
So
I,
that
I
was one
was,
of the original Bitcoin wallets.
that's
Wasabi
what I
wallet.
thought. Yeah, that's what I
Yeah, it
was
was one of
thinking.
the original Bitcoin wallets. Yeah, Wasabi wallet. What else we got? Oh my God. Yeah, the grab bag is endless here. Endless. We got a smaller version of the Genesis code to the original block. So we're celebrating block 840,000. This is block number one. This is block number one Genesis code right here.
Wow.
Genesis code block. Yeah, block number one right here. What else we got? Oh, we got just some basic Bitcoin magnets. I'm gonna be sending all this to Dean, and Dean and B will work out how to get these all to you because, yeah, I'm not sure what this was ever supposed to depict. All right, chat. What is it? What does everyone think? I don't know what that. What is that?
That's a honey badger, I believe.
That's a honey badger. Okay, a honey badger. Okay. What's the connection to honey badger and Bitcoin?
They're
Dean?
fierce. They're fierce animals. So
What's that?
if I had to think of it in an allegorical sort of term, it would probably be that Bitcoin was gonna like demolish world currencies or something like that.
Yeah, I've definitely used this on YouTube videos. Definitely. So that's there. What else we got? I don't know what this is supposed to be.
Looks like a building.
I know a Bitcoin building. Oh, well, hey, we can all understand what that is, right? That's like Satoshi cutting through fiat. All right. I'm not going to go through all these. There's more building. I really, oh, it's building blocks.
Oh,
That's
that
what
makes
this
sense.
is. These are blocks. Okay. We're going to go back to the countdown. This is a Bitcoin cloud. Is that what that is? I don't know what. Yeah. Let's go back to and see where we are.
Remember, folks, to be entered in the giveaway for the Bitcoin Halving limited edition shirt that we created, just comment. I will choose 2 people for comments. We really appreciate your support.
Yeah, I got multiple coasters. So we'll come up with ways to give all of this away because, yeah, I mean, people should have some memorabilia about Bitcoin because hopefully all of you saw my Bitcoin model forecast that was there. Let's see, is there anything more fun that's here? I think we got the most fun stuff in here. I did have some cool Bitcoin dice at some point. Let's see, do I have that? Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Tatiana asked, where did you get all this stuff?
Well, when I go down the rabbit hole of anything that I'm interested in, yeah, I really go down. And so if you're on Google and you're searching down the white paper on the white paper, the white paper on the white paper off the white paper, well, Google has a good way of putting up like all sorts of things that you can spend your money on. And I was like, this will be incredibly valuable one day. And yeah, I suppose it might be. Who knows? We never know. Maybe some of this some of these companies have gone out of business, but it just showed that to me in getting this, that there was something very powerful that was being touched by Bitcoin. In other words, it was getting at some central emotion in human beings about money. That it was inspiring people to come up with coasters, put the Genesis code here, create all kinds of things to commemorate the creation, to commemorate the existence, to spread the word that this exists. And they felt something very powerful, that this invention, this creation needed to survive, the word needed to be spread so that it wouldn't die like a debt. In other words, there was something real, genuine, etc. here. So when I saw all of this, I mean, from various different websites, most of them have gone out of business because, I mean, everyone that's been with us from Bitcoin, which is like we put Bitcoin into the portfolio at about $10,000. And then what happened? Well, the COVID crash happened. And then Bitcoin went to 3,500. I have to tell you, I had spent by that time 6 months pondering, should I put Bitcoin into the portfolio? Should I put Bitcoin into the portfolio? Should I put Bitcoin into the portfolio? And I was like, okay, the price is stable. I'll put it in. Literally, I think like 6 weeks later, COVID happens. And we have like this panic crash, taking Bitcoin from 10,000 to 3,500. And all of you, I know that like when our investments have periods of incredible volatility, or when we take a loss, I know it's very difficult on you. But at the same time, on my side, like I have to always feel like the investments that I put into the portfolio have some deep conviction and belief, like, hey, this can genuinely make us a lot of money. And so to have Bitcoin go from 10,000 to, I think the low was like about 3,000 or 3,200, I was like, nothing's changed. Everything that I've looked at, everything that I've studied about finance, about the history of money, about the supply of Bitcoin, nothing's changed. Yes, there's been a panic, but nothing's changed. And obviously, since then, we've gone through more than one panic. But I imagine that the second panic, if you have costs of, I know we have at least one person that has a few Bitcoin with cost of 3,000. Others of you might have slightly higher, slightly lower. Still, it's a lot easier to go through a crash that went from, I mean, what was the peak on Bitcoin last time? About 70,000, right?
Yeah.
Right. And the low was about 16,000.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, painful to go through and give up the gains, even though we didn't sell. And obviously GBTC was even tougher because that was trading at this crazy discount for a while. And that was, that entire period in 2022 and 2023 when FTX went bankrupt. What else happened?
I mean, we had several crashes. I mean, it was brutal.
It was brutal. I mean, the 2022, 2023 period was absolutely like, I mean, that was even worse in some ways than COVID. And even worse than the 2018 bear market because there was no FTX. There was not a fundamental questioning of like, who are these people in crypto? Like, and then we had Celsius go to zero, right? And then we had, what was the other one? Voyager?
Voyager, three arrows, or
that was that hedge fund. They went to zero. So it was an insane time. And through it all, I just went back to my original research, thought process, analysis. Has something changed here? I understand that like clearly some number of the people involved in Bitcoin and crypto clearly have some issues. But does that change the character of this particular asset? And I could never really change my viewpoint on it, which is like, I'm like, it seems fundamentally like the soundest money. It's like what every gold person that believed in gold would want. In other words, the finiteness of gold, the transparency that does not exist with gold. What's up, Dean?
I was saying also the visibility as well.
The visibility of, I mean, yeah. In other words, like, I mean, I was speaking to my mother yesterday, and she was talking about Bitcoin because of me. She, of course, tracks Bitcoin. But for her to take 1,000 rupees, I mean, 1,000 rupees, just Google what's 1,000 rupees in dollars and cents, Dean.
Looks like about $12.
$12, right? Yeah, I mean, so people earn in very small increments around the world, but with 1,000 rupees, you can buy Bitcoin. You can save that amount of money. And so, yeah, you have a currency like in India, which has essentially been, debased to zero multiple times in my lifetime. So, yeah, I mean, it's an extraordinary thing to be able to have. We've got some questions, I think, coming up.
Yeah. So Nathan said, if you don't mind sharing, what price was Bitcoin when you first bought? I got in around 9,400. I only wish I had done it so much earlier.
So, I mean, you have the benefit of me doing many dumb things before I recommended Bitcoin. So, actually, the bigger story is this, which is that initially I was skeptical of Bitcoin, and I made a video actually in 2017, which is still on the channel, that says this is a bubble and stay away. And then looking at what Ian, who's no longer with us, how he didn't change his mind, and other young folks that were on our team, those folks who were strong on crypto, I was like, oh, this is just digital money. Money in human history has always tracked the technology of the time. So metallic gold was when we came up with mining implements. And then what is a printing press? Well, it's industrialization of money. I mean, a printing press simply uses a machine to print money. And I was like, oh, we're going to use a computer, digital money. And it just one day after reading and thinking. But prior to that, I was like, oh, this is a kind of gimmick. I'm going to play with it. So I actually I remember buying Bitcoin in the 6,000s and 7,000s and buying what would be called shit coins of various kinds. I was in an exchange called Cryptopia that was hacked, and I lost all of my coins there. I didn't have Bitcoin there, but it was all this crap. But the cheapest Bitcoin that I own, I actually, by luck, one day morning, I was at my house in West Virginia going on a rock climbing trip, and I woke up at 6 a.m. I had a Coinbase account, and Bitcoin hit a low in 2018. It was like December, late November, early December. It's like $3,500. And I was like, something in me, like this inner thing was like, it's just buy. So I bought one Bitcoin at 3,500, and that's the cheapest Bitcoin that I have. But my first Bitcoin was probably much, much higher. Like I bought in 2018 as it was still on its way down to 3,500. And I wasted a lot of money exchanging Bitcoin to buy all kinds of, shit coins and altcoins, if you will, of various kinds at that time.
Nino says, thank you for answering that, Paul. Nino says, so what happens to the price of Bitcoin when it cuts in half? I think he was referring to like the supply. There's a running joke that the price of Bitcoin is going to be cut in half, but it's more of the daily issuance of Bitcoin that's going to be cut in half, which is very bullish.
Right. I mean, it's not that the Bitcoin gets cut in half. It's that you have to have somebody go and mine or produce or create new Bitcoin. And to pay them, there's something called, those folks who do that are called miners. And the pay is either referred to as the miner subsidy or a reward. And it is that which gets halved on the halving day that we are commemorating, celebrating, and here for. That's what gets halved. And so right now, as we speak, there are 7 more blocks where if you mine a block of Bitcoin, you will be paid 6.25 Bitcoin. So there's only 7 more blocks left where you'll be paid 6.25. But once those 7 blocks are mined, it gets halved to 3.125. So that's what the half is.
Right.
All right, we do more questions.
Yeah, and this creates scarcity. So this is a very, very positive thing. It's less going into daily, circulation, which could, in theory, drive the price up if we
I
have,
mean,
your demand.
especially with the creation of and the approval of these Bitcoin ETFs. There are 9 Bitcoin ETFs that have already taken in new money of 12 point, I believe it's $12.7 billion. So they are buying up, given on each day, anywhere between 3 to 10 to 12 times the new Bitcoin that is being produced. So when the new supply gets halved, who, where, how will the new Bitcoin arrive for, people who are buying the Bitcoin ETFs? They have to go buy the actual Bitcoin. So what you're going to see is the supply getting halved and shrunken. Demand is going to is going to continue at the very least at current levels, but there's only half as much new supply. So that will push price up. And the nature of human markets is this: financial markets work completely different than merchandise markets. I mean, if the price of a shirt goes down, we're happy. We want to buy that. But with financial markets, we want the price to go up. And that price stimulates demand. People want the thing that is rising in price. So as price rises, it stimulates more demand. There's no more supply. And what happens as the price goes higher? Everybody that owns it, are they going to sell? No, they're going to hoard it or maybe even buy more. So now you've got this like virtuous circle of demand driving price, price driving demand. And this is why I can project, in my opinion, we have a chance with this new avenue of demand, which is these ETFs. And I believe it's Hong Kong has approved an ETF or is on the verge of approving an ETF. Singapore, which is a major financial center in Asia, is also going to approve an ETF. Every country around the world will follow. Where will the Bitcoin come from? 93% of it is already mined. 70% plus is being hodled by people like us, by you, by me. In other words, we're like, we get it. This is like the ultimate in demand and supply game. We're keeping ours. You want ours? Bid it higher, bid it higher.
Yeah, that was a great answer. And I mean, think about it, folks. I mean, some of you all who got exposure to Bitcoin this early, you front ran ETFs and world governments. That typically doesn't happen, right? When you get exposure to something this valuable ahead of these large institutions with billions of dollars and trillions of dollars to purchase, So, all right, we have another question. So this is the $1,000,000 question. I've seen this question a lot. Miners are getting crushed. Why?
Miners are getting crushed. Why? Great question. Okay, this is a bit of a long explanation, and I'm expert at long explanations, but essentially miners are set up very differently than Bitcoin. The model for miners is almost like gold miners, and where the cost of mining keeps going up, and you have to invest in your mines ahead of being paid. With Bitcoin, once the halving comes, right, the miner reward gets halved. And unless the price moves up, your revenue gets cut in half. So as a miner, you face this double jeopardy, right? Right now, if you're Marathon Digital, if you are CleanSpark, if you are Hive, if you're Riot, in like 53 minutes, every Bitcoin that you mine, in 53 minutes, when you mine Bitcoin, you're getting half as much you used to. That means that to break even with what you were getting before, you would need Bitcoin's price to double, right? Everyone can understand that, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, double, right? But it's not going to instantly double. It's not going to instantly double. But that would be the theoretic response, right? I mean, because they're being paid 6.25 Bitcoin for every block that they mine. And then in about 52 minutes and 6 blocks, we're down to 6 blocks now. Yeah, their reward is going to get cut. So, and then what also happens if you're a miner, the difficulty level, right, is already quite high. Why? Because everyone is competing. They all want like these last 6 blocks or the last 100 blocks, several hundred blocks, where you're paid 6.25. So everybody's like been going crazy, right? Adding computer resources, etc. So do we know exactly when Bitcoin price is going to respond to the halving? We don't. So the market is like, yeah, we're going to kind of keep Clean Spark, which is in diamond tier. We're going to keep Marathon Digital's price somewhat high, but some of the weaker ones, like what if it takes 30 days? What if it takes 45 days? What if it takes 90 days? So they've sold off the miners. And once that price response arrives, as a result of the halving supply shock, and you start to see Bitcoin starting to move, all the miners are going to start ripping like crazy. They will rip and just turn anyone that is short or not negative there, because then the market will be like, it's up and they're starting to get paid because that supply, that demand response, supply response, price response is kicking, and the market will extrapolate, discount, anticipate, and run the miners higher. So right now it's that period of in between uncertainty. That's the reason why the miners are getting crushed. But I was looking today, even though we don't own Riot and Hive, we'll probably put some trades on those in the platinum tier options, because we own, in my opinion, the best two in diamond and tier. And we've got already 50 stocks. We can't own everyone. Money's money one way or the other, but we're going to definitely be putting some trades on the miners in the platinum tier options, looking to make some big money based on the thinking that I laid out.
Look at that. Look at you all getting early alpha by just being here and being with us. So glad to have you all. We do have another question, Paul. I think maybe I can respond to this one. The question is, all right, wouldn't the halving be priced in already? And just like the news gets priced in with stocks in the market. And I think, if I'm correct, Paul, we don't necessarily look at this as an event, right? We're not event bettors. Sometimes we can bet on an event, but we're looking at something fundamental changing with Bitcoin, right?
I mean, if we had seen a huge surge into this, it would tell you the market was betting on an event,
right?
And they would have priced in some of the price gains that, in my judgment, my opinion, and we should have done like the legal disclaimer and disclosure, which is that this live stream is not investment or financial advice. It is opinion, information, and engagement or entertainment, whatever you choose to do with it. It's your money and your responsibility. But let's say Bitcoin had ripped to 100. Then into the event, people are like, that's priced in. At least the short-term impact is priced in, and we sell it. But we actually have seen the reverse. We've seen Bitcoin sell off from nearly 74,000 all the way to 60. So the short-term event doesn't seem to be priced in. The long-term event, I mean, we've had 4 different halvings, and and it's way higher than, I mean, I can put up my halving model. Maybe let's quickly put that up. Let me get my halving model up.
I also wrote a Substack that recently that includes like the charting of like all the halvings. I'll place that in the chat as well. It shows like the price action before the halvings and then the price action that precedes the halving. So I'll
Did you lose me?
No, we still have you.
You still have me. Okay. Share this tab. Okay, let's just go through my halving model. Or let me make this a little bit bigger. I need to shut down some tabs here because my computer seems just freezing a tiny bit. So do that. Let me also increase the size of this. So here's the halving model. So in terms of long-term being priced in, so the first one here, the first halving, well, there's no halving to halving because it was Genesis to halving number 1, but obviously it starts at 1 cent. And at the original halving on November 28, 2012, Bitcoin price was $12. Right? So we then have halving number 2 at block 4, 220,000, which is on July 9, 2016, yeah, the price is 651, which is 5,236%. So the long-term halving impact, yeah, I mean, it's not possible for it to be priced in because we don't know what the demand response is going to be, as a result of the halving. Halving number 3, block 630,000, May 11, 2020, price is 8,618. From halving to halving, 1,224%. And here we are today, 419, price is 63,525. If it's around there, it'll be from halving to halving, 637%. And now it's to be seen, like, where will it go as a top? Previous tops, in terms of halvings, the original halving top, which came about a year after the halving with 371 days, was 1,151. So in other words, if you bought at the 2012 halving and you held to the top, what I call it the perfect trader. Obviously nobody's that, but you would have made 9,336%. In the 2016 halving, if you bought on the halving date, in other words, to the equivalent of today, and held to the top, well, you made 2,895%. In the 2020, which was on May 11th, halving, and held to the top, which was about a year and a half, 540 days, that was a 700% gain. So I have penciled in for 2024 1.3 million. Now, hey, does that seem high? Yeah, it probably does. But there was no ETF let's go back to sharing the clock since we're getting pretty close. I think I took it off. Oops. I think I need to go and share the screen again. All right. Why 1.3 million? Well, I laid out this theory that the 2024 halving, with the appearance of these ETFs, gives access to arguably the largest capital base on earth, which is asset management, which has something like, I've seen numbers of like $600 trillion to get access to Bitcoin. This is as close to the 2012 halving, where, is the biggest move, where the first market exposure to Bitcoin hits. Except back then, it's the individuals. And you have Bitcoin go from essentially 1 cent to $12. So what does that equivalent look like? To have the world's asset management firms, BlackRock, Fidelity, who else out there? ARK Invest. Pretty much anyone with a brokerage account now can access Bitcoin. What is the demand response going to be? In the way I have modeled it, the demand response is going to be unique. It's going to be different. It is going to represent something like what we saw in 2012 or 2016, rather than 2020, when it was somewhat tepid. Why? Why was it tepid in 2020? Well, what was different between 2020 and 2016? Nothing. I mean, Coinbase existed in 2016. GBTC existed in 2016. There was no Bitcoin ETF. There was no access to the wider asset management market. The knowledge and understanding of Bitcoin was far less. And then equally, the amount of commitment of hodling was a lot less. You didn't have 70% of all the coins being hodled. So I have modeled a very large, gain, something in between, something closer to the 2016 number. Now, many people have said, well, Paul, this is pie in the sky. This is ridiculous. It's preposterous. Hey, whatever it is, you can see every halving has generated a demand response, which has generated a price response. And in no previous halvings, if you bought at the halving, are you down come the next halving? You're always significantly higher by, in the previous halvings by like 600-700%. So hopefully that kind of answers the short-term and long-term question of priced in.
Awesome. I was responding to someone in the chat. We have not necessarily a question, but it's a comment. But before we get to that comment, I was also wondering if you can just touch on, like you mentioned earlier, you said that some global currencies are collapsing, right? There are some people in certain countries where banks are preventing them from buying crypto, but there's such a high demand for it that banks are fearful of this new technology, this new currency. And I think that's something that as Americans and people who, don't necessarily think of these things, that we don't necessarily consider this, but this is a reality for many people in many countries.
It's true, but the greatest purchasing power for Bitcoin, it lies in the United States because we are the wealthiest country on earth. We have the greatest amount of people that have access to significant wealth. And as a result, that is also the most interested party. Because once people get money, have some amount of wealth, they want to preserve it. And almost everyone today accepts that inflation is way higher than certainly like in my lifetime, I have never experienced inflation like what we have experienced over the last 3 years. Eggs, milk. You don't have to be very complicated to work all that out. Inflation is way higher than whatever, is in the numbers. And that is just a simple check of buying groceries or looking to buy a used car. There are very simple things to tell you that. So yes, there are some restrictions worldwide on buying Bitcoin, but in the United States, we have 9 ETFs that have taken in $12.6 billion. And the vast majority, yes, Vanguard apparently doesn't allow people to buy. Yeah, but anybody that wants to own Bitcoin is going to leave Vanguard to buy Bitcoin. No, they'll open up another account. So, there's no real issue in terms of US or even European, which is where the largest pools of money are. And then it's Asia, and the biggest markets in Asia really are Japan, and then Singapore, where the Chinese people send all their money.
Right.
Right.
This next question is, of course, we'll preface this by saying, of course, anything we say is never financial advice. But Raul wanted to know, how often would you recommend someone theoretically to purchase Bitcoin?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't get the question.
Yeah, how often would you recommend someone to purchase Bitcoin? Of course, we can't give exact numbers because
not financial or investment advice, but when I meet people who are, Dean, how old are you, if you don't mind?
I'm 30.
Oh, you're 30.
Yes.
Right. So when I meet people who are Dean's age, younger, my kids, for example, both own Bitcoin. And I have told them, I said, listen, in today's world, my son is 16, my daughter is 14. They both work. My son works quite a lot, in fact, and he makes a decent amount of money. And I've told him, and I've told my daughter as well, you can keep $300 in dollars, but the rest, just buy Bitcoin. I said, 1 year from now, sure, it might be higher or lower, but 3 years from now, it will be higher. And 30 years from now, every dollar that you swapped out into Bitcoin, you'll be like, that was the most incredible, unbelievable thing that I did. Because fiat will just lose value over time. And Bitcoin, because of accelerating scarcity, will gain value in US dollars over time, in my judgment, in my opinion. So how often should you buy? Well, I have told people Dean's age that don't necessarily have a lot of discretionary income. There's something called DCA, dollar cost average. Just commit to buying whatever, $5 a day. You won't miss $5 a day. But you know what? 20 years from now, that $5, it's an extraordinary amount. Just having commitment. So it really depends on your income. It depends on your goals. It depends on your time frame. It depends on your risk level, how much volatility you can stand. All of these things would come into the mix. But generally, the greater the time frame, I generally tell anybody of Dean's age, save everything other than short-term money in Bitcoin, because that will preserve the value of the work that you are currently doing versus almost anything else in terms of, as a store of wealth. Obviously, there are many stocks that can act in the same way because they have a technology, they have a service that is valuable, that people are going to be in demand, but still, if you want like a simple question without having to like which stock, et cetera, which sector, which industry, Bitcoin is a simple answer to that. So I give you a direct answer, but hopefully you can look at your own personal circumstances and determine what is right for you.
Yeah, and I know when I set money aside for my son Giovanni, one of the things I'm thinking about, I saw this commercial that Coinbase ran, and it was so brilliant. And they talked about how money should become more powerful over time, which is the inverse of what we're experiencing here with the fiat currencies. And so I was like, man, that's so impactful, and I'm glad that I'm purchasing some small amounts for my son to just sit aside. I don't even think about it.
Yeah, I mean, my son was also very lucky. He had his bar mitzvah, and he got some money from his grandfather. And he was like, I told him, I said, well, he has a stock account. And he said, what stock should I buy? And I think it was right around October of last year when he got the gift. And I said, buy some MicroStrategy. That was about $150, $180. And that's obviously, so there are other ways to access Bitcoin. We should at some point discuss the difference between, we talked about the miners, and I get questions about MicroStrategy and what they're doing and what is the difference, say, between Bitcoin and MicroStrategy and the miners. And we talk about that some other time, but let's keep answering questions.
All right, so let's see. The next question is pretty much similar to what you just answered. We can't necessarily answer this. It says, how about people in their 40s and their 50s? I mean, you essentially just answered that as well. It's really up to your risk tolerance, how long you plan to hold, etc.
Correct. I mean, the volatility in Bitcoin, as you have seen already, even this year, I mean, we're at 73,800 and we're at 63, and the low holds for the pre-halving, we were at like nearly 60. So that's 18%. And some of that happens like literally like in a day or sometimes in a couple of hours. And if you're, don't have some commitment to like, or you need the money short term, it's not going to be an appropriate place because it's going to be incredibly volatile. So if you pay your mortgage, your bills, etc., tuition for your kids, whatever, it's not going to be there. Like I have to keep obviously US dollars fiat for my day-to-day expenses, but anything for me that's like where I can see a time frame of greater than 3 to 5 years, I'm willing to commit some of that, I'd say at least, 30 to 50%, 70% into something that can preserve my wealth versus fiat USD.
Thank you. The next question is more of a comment. It's from Friday Night Saki and Sashimi. It says, in reality, miners aren't selling everything they mine. My understanding is they sell enough to keep the lights on and hold the rest. Could you speak to like the competition that should ensue once the halving takes place for miners? Like that, it's true that they have, I'm sure, a healthy cash position across these companies, but this sort of race is going to become very difficult to compete in, and some miners will likely either be bought or some will probably just like die out. Could you speak to that?
100%. If you go and look at the last cycle, a number of miners, including one that we had invested in, Core Scientific, they went bankrupt. They've reorganized. They have some cash, but I mean, there's going to be a huge miner pump. Meaning, like, I don't mean minor, meaning small, meaning like crypto miner pump when we have the price response for the halving. We're going to have a big pump because we will have a price response, in my opinion, my judgment, and people will want any kind of exposure that they can find. And some of these miners are being shorted. Many people, truthfully, don't have a very sophisticated understanding of Bitcoin, let alone miners, understanding the cycle. There's going to be a pump, and these will trade at some crazy multiples of whatever Bitcoin they do hold, whatever it is that, they'll come up with all kinds of wacky ways. At the top, everybody will be incredibly euphoric and think that can all continue. But the thing is that, like, even at the high prices, at some points, they won't be earning enough money to make new investments, to hit the new difficulty levels, to be able to compete for these 3.125 Bitcoin. That is the new miner reward. So the bigger companies have a higher chance of survival. So these will be, we will sell the two big miners at the top of the cycle. We won't hit the perfect top, but we will definitely sell. These are not buy and hold investments. These are cycles or cyclicals relative to the halving, and we will absolutely sell. And then we will wait for them to bottom out, and then we will find whoever it is that is the best miners for the next halving. So we are not buy and hold on investors. This is absolutely a trade that will like work itself out over the next 12 months. The miners, in my opinion, based on analyzing, understanding cyclical stocks, will anticipate the Bitcoin peak and will peak before Bitcoin. We've seen that with gold. We've seen that with all the mining stocks. Any cyclical stocks anticipates the business peak. And so when the miners peak out, you'll know that Bitcoin peak is somewhere, 3 months out or something like that. Markets seem to just figure that stuff out. So I didn't give an exact answer, but hopefully there's enough there.
Thank you so much. I'm going to comb through some of these comments and see if I can find another question.
Okay. And we can, take like a little bit of break since some of these blocks, I mean, like, let's see here. Some of these blocks are taking a long time, Dean.
Yeah, I was looking at that. At one point, it was like, 40 minutes or 50 minutes remaining with 7 blocks.
We still have 6 blocks left, and we probably I'm thinking 8:30. Well, we should do a poll to see like when will the actual, because originally it looked like it was, it's 8:30 is the current estimate. I think that's probably pretty good. So I mean, 8:30. I mean, we're going to stay on. We have 110 people on, which I think is a record for our live stream. So we're going to stay on till the bitter end, till the sweet, beautiful end, not the bitter end. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any other questions, but if you all have any questions, please drop those below. I'm going to drop the Bitcoin shirt that we're going to give away to 2 lucky commenters also in the chat again. For those of you who are just joining us, we're giving away quite a few things. We do plan to give away our Bitcoin BTC Halving t-shirt that we made specifically for this event. And I'll just drop that in the chat in just a moment.
Liz, always love your spirit. Thank you. I see a question here on MSTR from Nathan Anderson on what will be the signal or trigger to sell MicroStrategy.
That's a good question.
That is a great question, truthfully. And being that this is a very complicated thing that Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy are doing, they are using the convertible debt market, which has something like $600 to $700 billion is dedicated to convertible debt as a strategy. Convertible debt, for those who don't know, is where a company sells bonds and it will convert into stock at a certain price. So Michael Saylor, I guess, was approached at some point by folks in the convertible debt market and said, like, hey, you're buying Bitcoin. How about, we buy your debt, and then obviously, as Bitcoin price goes up and MicroStrategy stock price goes up with it, it would convert into stock and the debt gets extinguished. And so there is like this, this circle, right? There's convertible debt of $600, $700 billion at present, and they want exposure to Bitcoin. They can't actually get exposure to Bitcoin through any other way right now other than to buy convertible debt of MicroStrategy. So that's really what, they're doing when they sell debt. MicroStrategy then takes the money and buys Bitcoin. As Bitcoin price goes up, MicroStrategy stock moons, and the debt gives away, right? And this is like rinse, repeat, continually going on. If I were to guess, the miners in MicroStrategy will anticipate the Bitcoin peak, because once Bitcoin is not moving fast enough to trigger the conversion of the convertible bonds for MicroStrategy into stock, people will stop being interested in giving him money. And with that, obviously, there's slightly less demand for Bitcoin. And so my guess is that, yeah, we will sell MicroStrategy probably a little bit too early, but we will probably, that will be a trade. That will not be a long, like that will not be, Bitcoin for us, the cryptocurrency is a forever hold. We will sit through the volatility. But MicroStrategy, because they have leverage, because if that debt does not convert, then the market will start to worry that, oh, well, where are they going to pay this from? Will they have to sell their Bitcoin hoard? Are they too over levered? And that will drive some amount of selling that will be in there. So when I'm going to say that it's probably going to anticipate the peak in Bitcoin like the miners do. If you are subscribed to ATG Digital, in the MicroStrategy is in the diamond tier. We will tell you when we think that there is. I'm certain that I will not hit the absolute peak, because once you get the information like, okay, this is happening, and this happened with semiconductor stocks where we sold a little bit too early, but I think in hindsight, everybody's like, oh yeah, we made money and we're happy. It'll be something similar with that.
Thanks for speaking to that. Curtis said, which wallets do you recommend? I know that you're a pretty big fan of Coinbase.
Well, you think about this like, hey, I never told people to go to Celsius. I always questioned it. Because why? Well, for something very basic, if something seems too good to be true, it usually is. So yeah, you're going to put their Bitcoin, they're going to give you all this. And I was like, how? How are you paying for this? I mean, and trading is for free, no spreads. How are you paying for this? I never believed it. I mean, I remember like people recommending Celsius to me. I remember people recommending Voyager to me. I would just ask the basic question: how is this business staying in business? Coinbase always charged more, but I was like, there is a price to having security. It is not cheap to lock down your computer so that like hackers can't get in. It is not cheap. Those servers, to run those exchanges is not cheap. How are you managing this? As they say, like, if you don't know who, like, you're at the poker table and you don't know who the hand that's got the weakest hand is probably you. So my place where I store my Bitcoin is Coinbase, Robinhood, and Cash App. And I never felt any insecurity when we went through the 2022 disasters of FTX, Celsius, Voyager, and all these. Well, for one, I could always go to Coinbase's 10K, the annual report, where the CEO has to sign an oath that the accounting is real, or else he goes to jail. Yeah, I mean, that may not be worth anything to anybody, but it's worth something to me. The same thing for the dude from Robinhood. The same thing, for Jack at Block. So I took some faith that's like, okay, these publicly traded companies, yeah, I mean, there's some amount of security there where you didn't have that with Celsius. You didn't have that with Voyager. You didn't have that with Binance. You don't have that with Kraken. So I wanted some security, and I have kept, my Bitcoin at those three places because they're publicly traded. There's audited financial statements. It's always possible to have a fraud, but that would be a black swan. It's possible, but I keep track of this stuff because, I've got enough money there that matters to me.
That makes complete sense. Also, we only have 4 blocks remaining.
Okay, 4 blocks to go, chat. 4 blocks to go.
4 blocks to go. All right. I missed the question.
Someone says we skipped somebody's question, so we can.
Yeah, that's anything and everything. So he says, is anyone buying PWBTC? PWBTC.
I know WBTC is wrapped BTC. What is PWBTC? I don't really know.
It's post-chain BTC. So maybe it's post-chain wrap BTC, if I had to assume.
I don't know what PWBTC is to be able to answer that question.
Yeah, it looks like a wrapped form of Bitcoin on Pulse chain, which is a different
On
blockchain.
what chain?
On
On both?
Pulse chain, PULSE chain, Pulse, like the pulse of your um of your finger or arm. Pulse
Oh,
chain.
I don't know Pulse very well, and I don't know PWBTC. I have no reason to mess around for the most part with the wrap BTC because I don't really lend my BTC, my Bitcoin out and use it to lever up. Folks that run very sophisticated strategies where they take their Bitcoin, wrap it using Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies to be able to borrow against it. That would matter, but yeah, I don't think I have any answer for that question. I don't know
Yeah,
enough.
yeah, me either. I've seen it, but I haven't really done my research on it. All right, we have another question here. I just gotta. All right, so we have a question from Rawl, I believe it's his name. Do you know the breakdown between institutional owners and retail owners? I don't know if there's a way to track that.
Yeah, I mean, the tracking, I mean, that we can find easily is obviously it's very easy. For example, yeah, I think we have enough time. I can put up the Bitcoin ETFs. Yeah, let me just put that in the Bitcoin ETFs. So this is very easy to track, and I track this pretty much every day. And you can see, 12.3 billion in. It tells you the market share. You can see BlackRock. I mean, these were just approved on January 10th. So BlackRock has already taken in 17.5 billion, and it's challenging Grayscale for number one already. So we know that. We also know what MicroStrategy has. I think they have like 213,000, something like that, I believe.
Right.
Something like that. You can Google it. Then then Tesla has a tiny bit. Block has a tiny bit. But from there, nobody has to disclose what they have. I mean, there's no requirement to disclose your Bitcoin. The wallets can be anonymous. I mean, there is a guy named that is on crypto on X, previously Twitter, that is called Mr. 100, who's been buying for a long time, like for months, was buying 100 Bitcoin a day, like every day, like dollar cost averaging, except 100 Bitcoin a day. And this person, this company, this government, this institution, we don't know. It's a wallet that's in South Korea. That's all we can see. They have something like $3.4 billion. I mean, it's not possible to know, but if I were to guess, just given the beginnings of Bitcoin, the vast majority of Bitcoin is held by smaller holders. I mean, there's like the folks that mined early, and obviously there's a concentration there. But I would say the distributed Bitcoin is largely in the hands of folks like you and me. That's my view. And so if we hold on, all right, and we keep our strong hands and sit through the volatility, well, then the other side, who's they? Well, Wall Street, BlackRock, yeah, all the asset management companies of the world with their trillions of dollars, yeah, they want it. We can make them pay up. We can make them pay up. So every time we give them Bitcoin, well, then that's one less Bitcoin that they have to bid up for. So if I were to guess, the vast majority of the free floating Bitcoin is with regular people, like us. Yeah.
Awesome. Let me see if we have any. All right, so Cars says, is it worth buying Dune subscription for getting crypto insights? I don't know if you're familiar with Dune.
Well, I mean, the Bitcoin ETF thing is on Dune.
Right.
Yeah. I don't pay for anything. I try and extract as much free information as I can. And I generally, for what I'm looking for, which is I'm focused on obviously the mechanics of the market, then there are the facts and the evidence. And my general way is that I generally find that the most valuable information tends to be free. As a way of attracting people to, like, I mean, why is this Bitcoin ETF stuff given away for free? I don't really know. I mean, I would probably need to pay for it if they put it behind a paywall, at this stage. So, I mean, I don't know the answer because I really I don't have a paid subscription to it. What I showed you is available for free. And I have put up that link in my X account multiple times. And maybe if we do a follow-up on this live stream, we can include some of the links to whatever that I put up. Not the Bitcoin halving model, though, because that one I want to keep a little bit proprietary and for subscribers.
Also, speaking of free resources, we have a free newsletter. Many of you may be familiar with this. Our Substack, I just posted it in the chat there. If you're not familiar, check it out. We publish content on growth stocks, cryptos across a wide variety of sectors for free, 5 days a week, no charge at all. All right. If you have any questions, feel free to place those in the chat. We still have ample time here.
I see a question. Let me just see. We got everybody's. Just scroll through. I'm just going from the top, and you can go from the bottom, Dean, and see. David, who really logged in early at 2:30, if he's still on, David said,
wow.
Do you really expect an immediate reaction? Which way? Thoughts, comments, emotional outbursts? And David really is prepped. I mean, he's a fan of Indian food. He has vegetable tikka masala and basmati rice on the stove. If any of you are eating dinner, tell us what you're eating. Let us know. That sounds pretty yummy. Do I expect an immediate reaction? I want to say that there's probably going to be some immediate reaction because, I mean, you're going from 6.25 to 3.125. Everyone knows, I mean, has access like I do to the Bitcoin ETF data. 12.3 billion has gone into these Bitcoin ETF. Everyone knows that Hong Kong is about to approve an ETF or just approved one. I mean, I would expect some instant reaction from people because there is going to be like a sudden shortage of Bitcoin that was going to be immediately felt. I mean, we're going to go from 900 a day to 450 per day. So per hour, that's what, Dean? So if it was 900 a day, 24 hours of the day. So we're producing right now, there were 3 more blocks left, right?
Wow.
So per hour right now, it's producing about 37.5. But in 2 blocks, it's starting to move here. Whoa. It's
We're down to the wire.
Yeah. So in 2 blocks, it's going to be 18.75. So, well, where is the additional 18.75 going to come from? I mean, you're informed at the halving. You're on this live stream. There are many people who don't know anything about the halving, but they don't own Bitcoin. It's not like, is there somebody that is waiting for these 2 blocks to be mined to be like, I'm going to sell everything? I mean, you'd have to be really malinformed. I mean, that would be like some form of like malfeasance. I mean, like that would be crazy, right, Dean? I mean, who would think this? If you understood, is anybody going to do that?
I doubt it. I think what we've seen like very old OG wallets like that are waking up. Some of these people have hodled from like 11 cent all the way up. These are the people who may sell, but anyone who's bought probably in the interim, I doubt they're looking for a small gain on Bitcoin as it has a huge price relative to other stocks and such.
Yeah, I mean, but we saw a number of old wallets that have been hodled since 2012. There was one big wallet with, I think, 50 million that came, and I think had like costs of $7 or $12, but they sold into that like new high. Like we remember, I mean, one of the things that I didn't go through in my model is that in no other halving cycle did Bitcoin price in dollars hit a new high prior to halving. Previous halvings, Bitcoin was somewhere between 40 to 60% of the previous high. We are within 10% of, we made a new high before the halving. That has never happened before. And that's like a sign that the demand response in this halving is going to be different than the 2020 halving. So at the 2020 halving, I think like Bitcoin was trading at 44% of the all-time high on halving date. And we are within 10%. And at some point in time, maybe minus like, the couple of sell-offs, we could have been right there. But either way, we are, we're right there. 10% for Bitcoin is not a big move. We can see that in an hour. We've seen like, huge price moves.
Exactly. And we're seeing more and more, businesses get in on Bitcoin as well. I saw that Reddit recently added Bitcoin to their balance sheet. Tesla still holds their Bitcoin. Of course, MSTR. There's some speculation about Coinbase potentially buying a huge lump sum using convertible debt similar to MSTR. We're in like the ideal situation for this sort of asset right now. When I wrote the Substack, I was like, I can't think of a better setup. Like what other setup could you have than billions of institutional money flowing into this asset and large corporations adding it to their balance sheet as well?
Yeah, I'm just going to put this comment up, and Kathy, I totally understand. Which I have to say, I have to admit, I also thought this myself when I first saw the word miner, and I was like, where are these Bitcoin mines? And I had, but what it did is that it led me down the path. At some point, I actually owned a bunch of miners. And I would pay like this is a company called Compass Mining, and they would host it, but it wasn't worthwhile to do it. Truthfully, in hindsight, that was a waste of money. I should have just bought Bitcoin with it, because you pay them rent. The miners, their capability to mine degrades quite rapidly, and you have to reinvest into better and faster and more efficient mining equipment on a fairly regular basis. So, this is definitely no longer something that you can really do by yourself anymore. Maybe you could, but it's just the scale at which Marathon and CleanSpark are going at, and the fact that they can move mining rigs to Texas, where electricity prices can go negative because they have a huge excess of wind power from time to time, or they can just move their rigs and respond to electricity prices. Yeah, it makes it where as an individual, you can't really do it. But one of the things that I got an education in miners, and I understood whoa, there is an ongoing level of reinvestment that is quite significant by getting involved with this. And very quickly, I didn't really make my mining money. The miners that I bought, I essentially had to give it to Compass because they weren't earning it. And then of course they will buy it for nothing from you, or you can attempt to try and resell it. But it's tough to resell miners unless you're willing to, take a really low price, and then you have to ship it somewhere. It's just a giant pain. But I got an education. Like most educations are expensive. Yeah, on crypto, I've gone through many expensive educations. The good side is that I get to use it in our investments, in our model portfolios.
We have a fantastic question from Gene. Gene says, "What happens after the halving doesn't have anything to have?" What would you say to that, especially considering other world currencies? This thing continues to become scarcer and scarcer because of the halving. What does that do side by side with these other currencies that are kind of moving in the opposite direction?
Well, once there's nothing to halve, so we'll go through 100 halvings. So we're at halving number 12, 2012, 16, 20, number 4. So there's 96 halvings left after this one. So I won't be alive for this. So because 96 halvings. So we're talking about, I think people have modeled it out. They think it's 2140, 2135, 2136. That's the time frame we're talking about. So the year 2136. But let's like project ourselves into the future, and we're there. Well, the miners will have to be paid in some way, shape, or form for them to continue mining. Obviously, Bitcoin price, at least in our judgment, will have gone up so significantly that, yeah, the fee that's paid to miners, which right now is quite small, will ramp up very significantly. So the mining subsidy or reward will disappear, but the miners get paid a fee as well. And that will ramp up to keep sure that the network keeps running, the blockchain network that, yeah, make sure that the transactions are real, that the registry is current, and all the transactions, are kept in line. That's what will happen. We got one left, folks. This is it. This is it. One last one. One last one to go. One last one to go. We want to thank everyone for being on this historic live stream for Bitcoin. We got one more to go. We says the current estimate is for what, Dean? 812. 812. So yeah. So about, I'd say between 6 and 8 minutes. I'm not going to open the bottle of champagne. I think we should keep this for when Bitcoin hits 1 million, and then have like a virtual team celebration when Bitcoin hits 1 million, and have like a big ATG digital $1 million a day party. What do you think?
That would be amazing. That
would be amazing. I mean, hey, truth is that when Bitcoin hits $100,000, it's going to be equally amazing. I mean, heck, when it hits 70, 80, 90, given that the vast majority of folks that were with me at Banyan Hill have costs somewhere, let's say, somewhere between, in the $10,000 to $20,000 range. Yeah, I mean, it'll be. I mean, it's just going to be like, like a bit like magic, right? I mean, to just suddenly have, each coin or whatever our exposures are be worth $100,000. Like, wow. I mean, and $1 million. I mean, yeah, it's going to be unbelievable. All right, we're getting down to the wire here, down to the wire. We can't quite count it down because we don't know how quickly it's going to happen. But hopefully all of you have found this live stream to be fun, informational, entertainment. We are so grateful for all of you being part of this amazing ATG digital community. Without you, we wouldn't be here. I mean, if you hadn't crowdfunded us, and if Dean wasn't at Banyan Hill, if Dean didn't have his amazing wife, B, the incredible number of circumstances that have led to this moment, nothing but gratitude, nothing but love to all of our team. And there it is. There it is. It's complete. Yay! There it is. Let's see. Is there an instant response? Not quite yet. Not quite yet. But there will be. It's inevitable.
Yes.
And there it is, folks. Yep. There it is. Now it's in the books. And yeah.
Wow.
Bitcoin's halving officially complete. That's it. Yeah. If you're a miner right now, suddenly the new block that you are mining, you're getting half the amount of money, but your expenses have not halved. Your expenses are the same. So you either have to have cash in the bank, sell Bitcoin to pay your bills. So, yeah. So there's a balance that's here. Obviously, some of them will sell some Bitcoin, put some pressure. But equally, if you're a buyer of Bitcoin, you're like, oh, I'll buy later. There'll be a sell-off. Yeah, we shall see. Either way, last few moments for any comments, any questions. The giveaways, do you have information from folks?
So what I'm gonna do once this concludes, I'm gonna pull two of our members here, and I'm gonna ship free of charge that BTC Halving shirt. Thank you all so much, and also shout outs to all of you all that were commenting. Thank you, Fishing the Mountains and David, for saying like and subscribe. Like Paul said, we do everything we can to bring you all the best content, the most informed content, so you can make the best financial decisions for your future. So thank you all so much for your support. It really means the world to us.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to take this off. And on behalf of our entire team, B, Dean, Dan, Nicole, who else am I thinking of?
Alex.
So just give a shout out to our entire team. Let me just get everyone's name. Charlene. I think that's everyone, right?
We also have
and Alexis.
Alexis, yeah, Alexis. And you said Dan, right?
I did say Dan. Yep.
Okay,
and cool. I got Charlene, and Alex, and Nicole, and B, and you. Very grateful for this amazing team. Very grateful to all of you. Thank you all for being with us on this historic, unbelievable day. I believe that the future is bright. We're going to have some incredible, incredible things happen as a result of what has happened right now, today. And I am so stoked, so thrilled, so excited to share it with you. Thank you, everyone. From Dean and I and the ATG Digital team, good night. Thank you. Goodbye.
See you all.
Bye. Thank you. See you soon.